Hi guys, my name is Kirsty and welcome back to Upside Down Books. Today we are doing a huge book haul.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno.
I'm so excited to share these books with you because it is my birthday book haul and I have been anticipating all the books that I got, but not only is it my birthday book haul, I also went on a long weekend trip to Melbourne. And did I go book shopping? You betcha I did. I basically did a grand tour of Melbourne's bookshops. So I'm really excited to share all these books with you today. The most amazing thing that for my birthday you would have seen in my wrap-up video, I actually got a collection of Charles Dickens, which is from somewhere around the 1930s, and it is this beautiful leather-bound collection, complete set of Charles Dickens works. And that was my main birthday present. And I'm thrilled, but I'm not showing those off today or will be here forever. I am showing you everything else. My friends really came through with the goods this year, and I really came through with the goods this year in terms of just like the sheer volume of books I managed to acquire in Melbourne. So I'm thoroughly pleased with myself and I'm so excited about all of these books. It's like doubly more exciting at the moment because I'm not doing like TBRs, so I could just read these. Isn't that a wild concept? I could just pick them up and I can read them whenever I want. So let's start with the audiobooks. First book I have to talk about is Seven Deaths of an Empire by G.R. Matthews. I have been eyeing this one off for a little while now and been deliberating whether I wanted to read it in physical format or in oh my god, what's that word? Or via audiobook, and I've decided to bite the bullet and go for audio format. I believe the main character in this book has the duty or the task of protecting the heir to the throne, and the emperor has died. So there's a rebellion brewing and there's a lot of unrest, and it is just like all he can do to try and keep the heir alive. I think we're going to be seeing thieves and conniving politicians in this one, and I'm just sort of hoping for Robin Hobb vibes, like Brent Weeks kind of epic fantasy. I'm really quite keen to dive into this one. I actually haven't heard very much about it. I don't really know very many people who've actually read it at this point, so I am crossing my fingers for good things. Believe it or not, that was actually the only audiobook that I acquired this month. I think that is the first time in a long time it's just been one single audiobook within the space of a month, but I've been very good. Very good, but you know, who knows what will happen next month. I want to run through a couple of review copies that I have. I've got a few on Kindle because I went on a NetGalley requesting spree because I thought that for my 3.5-hour flight to Melbourne that I would need at least 5 books. Logic. Of course I only read a couple of them, but nonetheless. The first one was Neom. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. This is sort of a sci-fi and I really didn't like it. I rated it 1 out of 5 stars, but I'll be talking about that in my wrap-up. This one is set in a, I don't know if it's like a forgotten city, but it's meant to be a part of Saudi Arabia. It's in the Middle East. It's a fantastical world that's set in the Middle East, and I really, really liked that. It was my favourite thing, and probably the only thing I liked about the book was the setting. I really liked the reimagining of the sci-fi elements with, you know, spaceports and robots, and that is the whole thing, is the sort of the relationship between humans and robots or bionic people and how they don't quite see each other on even footing. And so I think it's like a nice commentary on the bigger side of things in an area of the world where there is a lot of diversity and sort of the prejudices that people hold. I thought that was interesting. I just really didn't agree. The writing didn't agree with me. I know that this writer does have a solid fan base though, so maybe if this is your thing then go for it, but yeah, I really just, this was exhausting to read. There was nothing interesting that happens, and like, honestly the plot was so boring. There was nothing happening, so yeah, that was a thumbs down for me. I then got The Mapmaker's Daughter by Claire Marchant. This one's not coming out until September this year, and in it we have a woman who rediscovers an old map that might lead her to unveiling some secrets about the past. It says after a tragic event froze her life 7 years ago, she returns to her father's map-making shop, or map shop, in hopes of finding some comfort there. And then she just finds herself caught up in a centuries-old mystery. So the other half of the story is set in the 16th century, and I believe it's about a female mapmaker. So I'm actually really keen to dive into this one, and I'm so hoping that this lives up to expectations. I don't know what, if you say it's about maps, if you drop the word cartography, I am there for it. The next one is a picture book that I received, and it is my favourite picture book that I have ever read. I cannot express how much I love this, and it is Blobfish by Olaf Falafel. I assume that is not his real name, and I don't even care though. This is hilarious. If you can find a copy of this, and you can grab a copy of this, even if you are also not 6 years old, then I highly recommend picking it up. This made me laugh so much. It's got really fun, like a really fun storyline about Blobfish and how lonely he is and he has no friends. But like, it's all about, I guess, discovering who you are, and it's just funny. I was killing myself laughing whilst reading this. So thank you very much to Audiobooks for sending this to me, because it was an absolute delight. And yeah, I don't think I've ever or will ever fangirl so hard about a picture book. But yeah, this was genuinely masterful. The next review copy was also from Audiobooks, and thank you very much to them, and that is Tilda. This is a middle grade historical fiction book coming out in September, and it sounds really sweet. I was sent a really cute journal along with this one, so I assume that the journal that we can see on the cover is going to feature in an important way. It's described as a classic in the making, which is very big praise for it, so I'm quite curious. And the sort of question that this book is seeking to answer is, when you've got a big heart, you've got to fill it with something, and are you going to fill it with light or dark? So I'm actually quite looking forward to reading this. There's something very joyous and nourishing about reading middle grade and quite young middle grade fiction, so thank you very much to Audiobooks for this one. The next 3 review copies I was very excited that I got, and kind of disbelieving that I was actually sent them, and it's the new jackets for Jennifer L. Armentrout's older series, White Hot Kiss. So 3 books, and we have White Hot Kiss, Stone Cold Touch, and Every Last Breath, and this is a paranormal spicy fantasy. I have read a selection of Jennifer L. Armentrout's other works. I have always enjoyed them, they're always good fun, and these are so much better, these jackets, than the original covers. They are out now in Australia, so if you haven't read the series and you're looking to collect them, then you can breathe a sigh of relief that they are not as 2000s-y as they used to be. So I am looking forward to just straight up binging this series at some point. I think I'm probably going to do a 24-hour like readathon for you guys and just enjoy it, because Jennifer L. Armentrout is the perfect author to binge, and whilst I haven't jumped on the latest bandwagon with her most popular series, I am quite contentedly making my way through her backlist. Right, I think that's all the review copies, so let's dive into everything else I got. The first thing I want to start with is really exciting because it is 6 books from a series, and that's The School for Good and Evil. So I finally have this complete set. I'm gonna drop that. I also slammed that against my throat. If I get a red mark, we blame these books. So I've been on the hunt for the School for Good and Evil books for like a long time. These have been out for nearly 10 years, I think 2013 or somewhere around there. And they were really popular on YouTube when they first came out. I remember watching everyone else read and review them. And I think they were either too expensive to start with before they became more available in Australia, or I just never got around to buying them. And so I've just been eyeing them and eyeing them and eyeing them off and never picking them up. And ironically, I actually tried to pick this up in Melbourne because I found a damaged copy of the book. And it was only slightly damaged, and it was like over 50% off because of it. So I picked it up, brought it home, got home, like Perth home from Melbourne, and realised that I picked up book 4 because all of these books say The School for Good and Evil with like the title underneath on like books 2 onwards. So I ended up trying to find the rest of the books, and I found out that Big W, which is the shop here in Australia, has these going for a ridiculously cheap price at the moment. So if you live in Australia and you are looking to collect this set, then you can check out Big W. So yes, let me actually run you through the titles, I suppose. So we've got The School for Good and Evil, A World Without Princes, The Last Ever After, Quest for Glory, A Crystal of Time, and One True King. So I have heard since buying this from a lot of excited fans that this is being turned into a TV series, unsure if Netflix or otherwise, and so I am hoping to actually make my way through this before that comes out. So it's quite an ambitious task, but you know, I'm feeling it. I think it's going to be fun. I've literally been so excited about this for so many years, so I'm going to weep with joy when I read them. I'm not sure I really need to explain what these are about. I feel like the title is self-explanatory, and I actually don't know if it's middle grade or if it ages up to YA, and quite frankly, it just doesn't bother me. I'm so excited to read them, but yeah, magic, school, tick. The next book is a book I have finally picked up, and so many people are glad to see that I have finally done so, and that is the Kiss Quotient, or Quotient, depending on how you say it, by Helen Huang, and I am so keen to read this because this is obviously a TikTok sensation and just generally very popular at the moment. I picked this up specifically because it was super cheap, and because I have been somewhat resistant to just go out and buy all of the popular TikTok books at the moment, because I'm not a heavy contemporary reader. I do enjoy a contemporary book, but I don't read them. Like, it's not my main thing I read. But nonetheless, this was super cheap, so I thought, let's give it a go. This is the one we're going to try, and a lot of people have said that this is very good and lives up to the hype. So I'm very much so hoping to enjoy it. I say that with such a look of, like, disbelief. I don't know why. I go into every contemporary book being like, another school romance, do I care? And I don't know why I have this attitude, and I always end up enjoying them. So I'm just hoping that this will prove me wrong and actually be something that I end up loving. But yeah, I don't know, I'm not like super excited about it. I've purely bought this to check it out and see if the hype is, like, if it lives up to the hype for me. So we will see. It's also about maths, and like, I really don't like maths, so yeah, this is going to be a challenge book at some point. The next one is a sci-fi book that I'm so excited to finally be adding to my shelf, and that is Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. I have heard so many good things about this. This is not my favorite cover edition, but I just accepted that the Americans out there, you guys have a much better cover, but that's okay. Or maybe it's just the hardback, I don't know. I'm really, really excited about this because a lot of my friends who've read this have just loved it, and the sequel has just come out, is coming out, has not long just come out, I don't know. And I want to jump on the bandwagon. I've been really enjoying my YA sci-fi, and I feel like there's a lot more of it like this coming out in the last few years, and I'm hoping that trend continues with like genuine sci-fi spacey stuff going on that's not hardcore sci-fi and that's not just contemporary with time travel. So this has got me very excited. This tagline sums this up nicely. It says, "Rebellious royals, political alliances, a galactic empire on the brink of civil war." I don't think I need to say more. I'm so excited. This is surely going to be a 5-star read when I get to it. The next book I got, I was so surprised to see it in the bookstore because it's a book that I have had on my radar and my wish list for so many years, and I've never seen it in a bookstore, but I got it in Melbourne and the bookstores are bigger there, and that is The Midnight Dance. I love this cover. This one is by Nikki Katz, and I am just so excited that I'm going to be able to read it. This is about a girl who is training at a grand ballet company in Italy where people train to become the finest ballerinas in the country. The school is overlooked by someone called the master, who is supposed to be very mysterious and attractive, and then the main character starts to have flashes of memories of a life that she hasn't led herself, and it becomes this mission for her to escape the walls of the ballet company because she starts to question the motivations of the master. To me, this sounds like a Phantom of the Opera retelling. I'm not sure if it is, but I'm a keen bean, and I blew my socks off with it to see it in a bookstore, so huzzah to the Dimmicks who stocked this. The next one is so beautiful, so prepare your eyeballs for some sheer beauty, and that is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Isn't that a lovely addition? This was actually gifted to me for my birthday by my boyfriend's mum, and she has impeccable taste when it comes to the classics. She's also on a secret mission, I dare say, to get me to actually read the classics since finding out that I haven't read Little Women, which is the other book she also gave to me. So not only did she give me Rebecca, but I've also now got this beautiful movie tie-in edition of Little Women, which has a half jacket on it, which when you take it off just becomes a beautiful, very old-fashioned looking red, I imagine faux leather-bound book. And I have to say, since watching the film for Little Women, I have been immeasurably excited to read the book. I have heard varying reviews about it being a slog to read, great to read, I guess just the standard sort of thing you usually get from classics, but I'm really in the mood to read classics since reading Sense and Sensibility earlier this year. So I am looking forward to reading both of these. Daphne du Maurier lived from 1907 to 89, and this was originally published in 1938. So yeah, I'm just really excited to get what I want to call them modern classics, because yeah, you know, they've got about 100 years on Pride and Prejudice and Charlotte Bronte and all those kind of classics. Yeah, I'm just really stoked about these and excited to dive into them. So if you've read these classics, I'd love to know what you think down below. The next book was a book that I simply had to get whilst I was in Melbourne, and that is Twin Crowns by Catherine Doyle and Catherine Webber. I love that it's two Catherines who've written this. This one has been doing the rounds on Instagram lately. Oh my goodness, it's got lovely chapter headers. Let me show you. Look at that! That's so pretty. I love it when that happens. This one, first and foremost, is a really lovely floppy paperback. So this one is about two sisters and one crown. So one of them has been trained from birth to be the heir to the throne and has been trained to look out and fear for these witches who have posed a great threat to her and who killed her parents, and then the other one was stolen from the palace at a young age and is the secret sister that no one knows about. So I just don't see how this one could let me down. I'm so keen. The next one was also a very satisfying one to buy, and probably the contemporary I've been the most and actually genuinely excited for, and that is You've Reached Sam by Dustin Tao. I'm so excited for this one. When this first got released this year, I thought, oh, that's a really pretty cover, I like it, and then I read the blurb. This one is all about this girl whose boyfriend dies, and to comfort her, she ends up calling his phone to listen to his voicemail, and then the blurb just finishes with an epic one-liner to say, and then one day he picks up, and I was like, So I think this is going to be a paranormal romance. I assume so, unless there's some really huge plot twist going on there. But I'm really, really excited to read it just based on that. There's such like it's almost a terrifying premise. The thought of, could you imagine calling someone and then they actually picked that would be so scary. So scary. So, but anyway, I don't think it's meant to be scary. I think it's probably supposed to be lovely. But I'm really keen to read this and figure out what it's all about. The next one I'm really excited for, so I hope you can all appreciate the title and the cover, and that is How to Mars. This one is by David Ebenbach, and I'm so excited. I went to Minotaur, which is a pop culture bookstore that we do not have in Perth, but is in Melbourne and probably every other city on the East Coast. And they're a specialist fantasy sci-fi store, of which we have one in Perth, which is, it is what it is, but it's not Minotaur, let's put it that way. And so when I walked in, I actually saw this on the bookshelf. I was super keen because when this came out, and this hasn't been out for very long, I thought I'd love to read that, but I'm never going to see it in a bookstore. I'll have to order it online. And then I saw it and it's so teeny weeny, but I just, the cover, he's holding a beach umbrella on Mars and an esky. That's hilarious. So I am so keen. This is going to be a comedy, like, colonization of Mars, and it's 6 lucky scientists who have been chosen to go on the mission. I'm really hoping that this is able to like hold itself up to the reputation of Andy Weir, because my standards and expectations for sci-fi like this are set so high because of that man. But yeah, very, very keen to read this, and I can't get over the cover. I love it so much. The next book is another oldie but a goodie, and that is Captive Prince by C.S. Pacat. I found this one in a lovely bookstore called Hill of Content in Melbourne. If you've ever been, then thumbs up, and if you haven't been yet, then go check it out because it's a multi-story bookstore. And they had quite a few of the older fantasies, sci-fi stocked, and I've never actually seen this book in person before. I just know that this is, I don't know if it's C.S. Pacat's like debut or just their first most popular book. Obviously this name is probably familiar to a few of our sci-fi fantasy readers in the crowd tonight. But yeah, I've never seen this one, and I've always wanted to, because I remember when this was first out and popular, I thought, ooh, what is that book? Because a lot of the talk, I think it's reasonably spicy, and I thought it might be romance / erotica. I don't think it's erotica, but I do think it's going to be spicy. I hope so, because that's sort of what I've been set up to believe. So we've got Damien, who is a war hero to his people and the rightful heir to the throne, but then his half-brother seizes power, and I assume there's going to be a lot of fighting and like trying to break free from slavery. I can just imagine the scenes. I'm imagining things. I'm just basically imagining like Gladiator and Russell Crowe right now, so I'm in my happy place. But I'm so keen to read this. I haven't read anything by C.S. Pacat yet, so this is a big ticket item for me. The next one is a new release that I just kept seeing everywhere. I didn't know much about, but I've just seen in a lot of places and I wanted to get in on, and that is We Who Hunt the Holo by Kate Murray. I believe this one is a paranormal fantasy. Oh yes, no, this one, I do know about this one actually. I've forgotten. I had read the blurb. This is about monster hunters. So yes, paranormal fantasy, and I am keen purely because I read Only a Monster earlier this year, and that has got me very excited and brought like the idea of monster hunting back into a trend, at least for me. So yeah, I'm really hoping that this lives up to expectations. I've seen a few things about this, mostly positive at the moment, but otherwise haven't seen too many other people reading this. It is a very new release though, so I will have to probably go into this one blind. Speaking of older fantasies that I managed to get from Hill of Content, the other one was The Councillor by E.J. Beaton. And I actually fangirled so hard when I saw this one on the shelves, because I have, again, never seen this in person, and I thought it was old enough at this point that I never would see it in person. I thought we were done and dusted with this book being an imprint item, and so when I saw it, obviously I had to get it. This one is set in a kingdom where we've got kings and queens. The queen dies, and the queen's scholar, who's also her closest friend, or is appointed as councillor for the interim, and it's her duty to try and pick the next monarch. She has suspicions about who might have murdered the queen and the fact that magic was involved with the dethroning, shall we say. I really, really like the premise for this book. There's more, it goes on, but I just really love the idea of someone who's not a king or queen being put in a position of power to choose the next one, and battling against the people who obviously want to have some control as to who is sitting in the throne and the seat of power. So I'm really excited to read this one. I've just about never seen anyone talking about it, but for me, this has been on my lists for years and years and years, so I cannot believe that I'm holding it. It is here, and it will be on my shelf. The next one is another birthday book, and that is Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. I have seen nothing but good things about this one. This is a gloriously huge fantasy book, and it gives me like Red Riding Red Riding Hood, Red Riding, what is the name of that fairy tale? It gives me, I think it's Red Riding Hood. Those vibes, you know what I'm talking about. This one starts with, once upon a time there was a horrible girl, and I think that that is an excellent start to a blurb. But listen to this, I'm going to keep reading. Vanya Schmidt knows that no gift is given freely, not even her mother's love. The adopted goddaughter of death and fortune, Vanya has long made her own way in the world as the dutiful servant of Princess Giselle, until a year ago when her otherworldly mothers demanded payment for their care and Vanya decided to steal her future back by stealing Giselle's life. That is the first part of the blurb, and I am here for this. And I know that so many people have really loved this. This has made quite a number of people's like top 10 lists for the year so far, so I can't wait to get into this one. The next one was purely a purchase for collection, and that is a special edition of The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I actually have a more or less matching version of the Testaments, the same cover like vibe as this to go with the Testaments, which is the other book that Margaret Atwood brought out. If you don't know, this one has stunning end papers, and I just generally loved the book. So I found this in a bookstore. I realized that obviously I need this. I have a really old dinky copy of The Handmaid's Tale, so I was more than happy to treat myself and upgrade it to such a lovely edition. The next one I picked up out of my non-fiction binge at the moment about the natural world, and that is Jane Goodall's latest book, The Book of Hope. I say latest book, but I have no idea if she's ever published anything else. This has been like jacketed and designed to look so similar to David Attenborough's, and I love it. Jane Goodall is quite famous for people who are moving in those circles, reading circles I should say. I know her because she worked with David Attenborough with that famous gorilla scene when they were talking about the low population of the gorillas, I think in Rwanda or somewhere around there, which is in Africa, and since then the populations have recovered somewhat, and so I'm really keen to get her take on things because I've never really read about someone else who I would classify as a naturalist, and obviously this one has been blurbed by David Attenborough, and I just love that man so much. So I'm really excited to dive into this one and find out more about her and what she's been doing. I think it's going to be very enlightening. Speaking of the natural world, I also picked up The Social Lives of Animals by Ashley Ward. This was actually just sort of an impulse buy. I had no real reason to buy this other than the fact I wanted to. It wasn't even on my trip in Melbourne. I just saw it in a bookstore and I decided that I would like to add it to the collection. I think I probably don't need to explain this one to you guys. It's about the social life of animals. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to learn more about this. I love animals. I love learning about the natural worlds. If you can't tell by this point, without its jacket, it's just a boring blue, but it does have nice sort of tangerine end papers. So there is that. And continuing on the trend of natural world books, I also got Apocalypse Never by Michael Schellenberger, and this one I did get whilst I was in Melbourne. I managed to find this one for a heavily discounted price, and I have been resistant to adding this to the list and picking up because it looks like an anti-climate change book. It looks like a, oh, it's not happening book, but it's not that. It is about why environmental alarmism hurts us all, but it's in the sense of there's not enough positivity shared. There's not enough wins shared. People aren't talking about the success that has happened. So this book is sort of counterbalancing all the extreme negativity and stress that we get about climate change by saying, hey, here's some things that we have done right and here are some things that have been successful. And once I realized that that's what this book was about, I was like, okay, I need to read this because reading a dose of positivity would go a long way at this point in the world with how things are going to try and make me feel like we are capable of making some positive change. So I'm really keen to read this one and balance out all the scary facts I'm probably going to find in all my other non-fiction books. The next book I got is one that I am, no surprise, excited for, and that is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This one I really loved because I have not actually seen this big edition for a while, and again I found this in Minotaur, and it's got this lovely golden step back to it, so that little extra bit of gold there, and I just really like it. I actually don't usually like step backs, but this one I am vibing with. I find the cover very eye-catching. This is a fantasy book that I have had my eye on for a long time. This one, let me read you the blurb. Inspired by the civilizations of the pre-Columbian Americas, woven into a tale of celestial prophecies, forbidden magic, and crafted with unforgettable characters, Rebecca Roanhorse has created an epic fantasy adventure in the most original series debut of the decade. In the holy city of Tova, 3 lives are converging during a solar eclipse, prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Zyala, is a disgraced teak whose song can calm the waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries 1 passenger. Described as harmless, the passenger, Serapio, is a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. As Zyala well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain. So yeah, I mean, like, if you're not excited by that blurb as much as I am excited, then I don't know what to say, because whilst it has been on the up and rising trend of like pre-colonial African fantasies, which is so wonderful to see, I have never seen a pre-colonial America's fantasy, and Keen Bean is the best way I can describe how I'm feeling about this, because I can't wait to pick it up. There are still so many books. The next one is one that Chris got for me, and that is The Boy with the Blue Trousers. I've never heard of this book before, but look at the shimmer on that. I can't wait to read this one. This is a lovely big historical fiction, and he knows me well because he has picked a point in history that I am just overly keen about reading at the moment, and that is 19th century China. This is going to be a dual perspective. It's set in 1856 in China and also in 1857 in Australia. It's about a little girl called Kat who disguises herself as a boy in blue pajamas, and she makes a long and difficult passage to Australia, and then we also have the opposite perspective of someone called Violet, who's arrived off the boat from England fleeing scandal back home, and she is seeking her fortunes in the gold mines in Victoria. So I just think this is going to be an epic read, and I can't believe I haven't heard about this book or seen anyone else talking about it yet, because I think that this sounds like a really, really great story, and I can't wait to pick it up. The next one is one I've been holding out for a really long time. One of my friends got me for my birthday, and look, I'm so grateful, so thank you, Wandy. And that is Bravely by Maggie Stiefvater. We all love Maggie Stiefvater. She is a great and staple name in the YA reading community, and this one is obviously a Brave retelling. If you know me, then you know how much I love Brave. Brave is my favorite Disney movie, and Merida is my favorite princess, and I'm just so excited to read this. I'm so scared that I'm not going to love it as much as I'm hoping I will, but fingers crossed that I do, because I just think this sounds incredible. This one is sort of set up into sections. It says 1 princess, 2 gods, 3 voyages, and 4 seasons, and it is still actually Merida, so it's not just like a reimagining of it. It's actually almost, it's not canon, but let's say it's canon. I'm going to say it's canon, and it's about the events following the movie, so I cannot wait to revisit this story. The next book is another book gifted to me by Chris, and that is Kate Morton's The Forgotten Garden, and I am really, really keen to pick this up because I've not read any Kate Morton yet, and I really, really want to, because she writes a lot of historical fiction, which is one of my favourite genres. This one is set in 1930, and it's set during the First World War on a ship bound to Australia, and then it's 45 years later and she embarks upon the search for the truth that leads her to the Cornish coast and the strange and beautiful Blackhurst Banner. I'm very hopeful that this is going to give me the Secret Garden vibes and have some sort of really cute old hidden English garden somewhere, yeah, I'm just so keen to dive into it, and I know that it's going to be a nice chunky read too, so I don't think we can go too far wrong with Kate Morton. She is a well-renowned author. The next one is another birthday book, and this one I have just had on my eye on for a while because it's about dragons, and that is The Colour of Dragons. This one's by Ari Salvatore and Erica Lewis, and I just love everything that's going on with this cover. What I think is really interesting is that I'm not sure if this is a retelling of Camelot, like of Arthur and the Round Table. I think it might be, because it starts with saying, I dare say you've heard of Camelot, its brave king and bold queen, its inevitable fall. This is a different tale of ages before when magic was just an ember. So I don't know if it's just like connecting with the Arthurian legend or if it's going to be just like related to it thematically, but I don't care and I'm there for it. If it's got dragons and it's got Camelot vibes, then that's all I need to know. I told a lie, I found another review copy, and that is Esthers Children by Carolyn Beecham. I don't think I've hauled this one already, but I may have done. This one is set during 1936 in Austria, and it is about the effort to try and save Jewish and other hunted peoples who were academics and try and take them to safety during the war. So I can't wait to read this one as well. This one is right up my alley and I am expecting good things. We are nearly there. We are on the home stretch now. So the next book I want to show you is Lifelike by J. Christoph. This was sent to me by Sarah, so thank you very much, Sarah. I have now read a J. Christoph book and thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm really, really looking forward to reading some of his other books. Lifelike is a very popular one, so I'm really keen to dive into it. It is his sci-fi book. I mean, I assume it's sci-fi. Sounds similar to Ready Player One, so I'm just hoping to enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Empire of the Vampire. Obviously, those are two very different books, but again, thank you, Sarah, for finally getting this on my shelf. I promise I will try to read it within the next 2 to 3 years. She also sent me Only Mostly Devastated, which is actually a Grease retelling, and I am there for that because when this came out, I saw that it was a Grease retelling and got very excited because it's such a, like, an unusual retelling to pick. Not that it's strange, but I don't see that many contemporary novels that are romances that are based off a popular film. So I'm hoping for good things. I know that there have been lots of good things said about this one. It's a nice small book, so I think this will be a perfect weekend read and pick me up once I get around to it. But yeah, super keen. Then from my good friend Amy, I got Eleanor Park by Rainbow Rowell and Ice Wolves by Amy Kaufman. Rainbow Rowell is a fairly self-explanatory author. She is very popular and I have read a few of Rainbow Rowell's other books, and Eleanor Park is one of the last one of her books I've been meaning to pick up and like add to my bookshelves for a while. I've got a lot of the other ones, if not all of the other ones, so I'm really keen to read them all. She has such varying reviews on all of her books, so I really I'm excited to make my own opinion on all of them. If you don't know what this one is about, it's about a new girl in town and she has a really chaotic family life and she really sticks out. She has unruly hair, etc, etc. And then we have Park, who is the boy at the back of the bus. He's the one that's like wearing a hood, he's got his headphones in, he just like doesn't look super approachable, but Eleanor notices him and it's about the relationship and the friendship between the two of them, and I am really keen to see if I enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed her other books. Ice Wolves is obviously a fantasy, it's actually middle grade and I'm super keen to read it because I really am keen to read more books by Amy Kaufman. I've had hit or misses with some of her other books. I can't remember, it was Megan Spooner and Amy Kaufman's duo writing I wasn't a fan of, but I seem to be enjoying their writing when they write separately. So Ice Wolves is one band of people and the Scorched Dragons are the other one, and they are like sworn enemies. In fact, let me just continue reading the blurb from there because I'm going to butcher it otherwise. So when 12-year-old orphan Anders takes one elemental form and his twin sister Raina takes another, she has to question whether they are even related. Still, whether or not they're family, Anders knows that Raina is his best and only true friend. She is nothing like the brutal, cruel dragons who claimed her as one of their own and stole her away. In order to rescue her, Anders will have to enlist in the forbidding Ulfa Academy, a school for young wolves that values loyalty to the pack above all else. But for Anders, loyalty is more complicated than blind obedience, and friendship is the most powerful shape-shifting force of all. I think this sounds really adorable. It's giving me like How to Train Your Dragon vibes. So of course I've got high expectations, so hopefully it lives up to it. I then have a final birthday present, and that is The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. I love Kate Quinn. Kate Quinn is one of my favorite historical fiction authors, so I was really stoked when my sister gave this to me for my birthday. It's such a big book and I'm so happy about that. I have read The Rose Code and I'm actually currently reading and very nearly finished with The Diamond Eye, and her writing is just unparalleled. I don't think anyone writes as well as Kate Quinn. She is truly phenomenal. This one was published a couple of books ago, so this is sort of going into her backlist now, but I believe this was still really popular. This one is set during the war, like all of her books are set during the war pretty much, and they're always from different perspectives. This one like follows an American, but I'm not sure if it's set in America, but it's definitely set in Nazi occupied France, and that is always such a good setting for a bit of drama, so I can't wait to read and love this one. It's getting very precarious. The last book I have to show you is An Arrow to the Moon by Emily Exarp Pan, and this one is actually going to be the book club pick of the month for my book club, which I ironically cannot attend the next meeting for, but I will be reading this anyway. I picked this up as a birthday present from a gift card I was given, as I have just been in love with the cover. Isn't that just fantastic? I think this one might be fantasy. I'm not sure if it's fantasy or sci-fi, but we've got Hunter who has perfect aim with a bow and arrow, and he never veers off course, but he is haunted by his family's past and his mistakes, and the only thing keeping him from running away is his younger siblings. And then we've got Luna, who really dreads the future. Graduation's looming ahead and her parents' expectations are stifling, and then the world turns upside down once Hunter turns up in her class. So they are navigating a feud between their families, so maybe it's not necessarily... Surely this is fantasy with that cover. Kind of sounds like it's contemporary, and it kind of sounds like it's going to be a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. And to be honest, I don't care if this ends up being contemporary or fantasy, because this sounds like it's going to be great and it's got such a beautiful cover. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. So yeah, these are all the books I've acquired since we last spoke. It's quite a few, and I'm expecting to do some more damage in the coming months. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these, or if you're planning to, and let me know if you think I should read any of these sooner rather than later. I cannot wait to dive into them, and again, a massive thank you to everyone who sent me a book off my wish list. That was just such a lovely gift to open up, and to all the bonus gifts that I had on my birthday, so thank you again. But other than that, I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.
Alla gloria militar.